Well, hello. Thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone can hear me. We are starting a few minutes late. This time we're starting an hour early, so thank you for joining us once again. And you have reached this channel that it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. I can tell you it's definitely not for the faint of heart. We have a lot of information and that we are going to be doing today, and it will be in a various series. I can't say 30 minutes because sometimes we'll go over 30 minutes, but we will be like starting and then restarting again. So please bear with us. If we have any connections issues or if you have any problems on your end, please contact us at life, ATLIFE, at yahoo.com. And our team will try to get you taken care of if you have any questions. But we will be doing this in sections. And today's title is called Exposing the Lies of Genesis. And boy, you're in for a ride. So if you've never rode a roller coaster and you're afraid of heights, but you still go on the roller coaster, buckle up, hold on to your sides and the side rails and start screaming now because we're getting ready to start. And it will be a ride for your life. So we thank you, everyone who has joined and who has been coming on and who has been supportive of our ministry. I can't even say ministry, so let me just say class. And we are here to just reach the world, and God has definitely been merciful and kind to us, and He has blessed us in so many ways. And I was thinking, I'm trying to let people get online because I see the numbers are coming up. So I was thinking when I was cleaning, of course, we have a lot of work to do, and I was cleaning off some of my hard drives, and I ran across one of the little girl that was healed in Mexico, and she was healed of brain cancer. And to go back to that story, it was just a miraculous thing that happened that you can't really describe it. It's undescribable because it was like a force shield that was happening at the time. But we have mentioned that story several times on our channel, so if you want to check the other channels and you can hear about it. But I ran across her little face, and and I just know that we are very blessed to know that God has kept His hand upon us, and we're still standing in the midst of everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're still standing. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to our team leaders and say ready, set, and go. You're on the air.
Okay, Julian, I have to talk about the little girl that received the miracle of healing. I think it's so prominently important because in this world, many people have not ever experienced a miracle. They have no idea what it's about. And in this series, I'm going to express to you who God is, what He's about, and how we got off base. Now, let me talk about the little girl in Mexico. I believe she was about 14 years of age, and Julian, you were there. So you can chime in at any time and help discuss this topic. I had felt to go out on the patio of the building, or the platform, whatever you call it, and just to sing and worship the Lord. That's all I was going to do, nothing else. I knew there was a language barrier, but I wasn't going to let that stop me because I know that God goes through the atmosphere and the language makes no difference. So when I walked out there, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I just knew that there was one thing that I wanted to happen. I wanted the people to know who God is and that He cares about you wherever you are, in whatever country you're listening to right now or whatever you might listen to in the future. God cares about you. So as we got out and started to sing, and I think this happened the second day, didn't it, Julian? Stacy, you guys were there. The first day, it didn't seem like much was going on, and I got very frustrated because we could feel the presence and the power of God coming through. But I wasn't seeing any visual response, and therefore I was questioning what was going on. When God comes through, the atmosphere changes. There's a presence like you're feeling right now that nobody can mimic or mock. It's God and Him alone. And I got very frustrated because I thought maybe I had missed it somehow. Maybe there was something I had failed to do in my preparation. Pray, seek the face of the Lord, which I'm always in that atmosphere. So I couldn't explain it. I went home to my RV after that, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said precisely these words: don't go by what you see, but go by what you know. Go by what you feel. If I feel His presence, He's moving. You know He's moving. If you feel His presence, that means He's there. You cannot fake that. No man can create that. No man can make it happen. It is God's presence and His anointing. So when He said, don't go by what you see, go by what you feel, I knew His presence was there just like it is here right now. So I went back the next day, still uncertain as to what's going on. And the next thing that happened was we stepped back in. And this time I didn't go by what I saw, I went by what I felt. Got into that train of thought, and as my son so beautifully calls it, the zone, and boom, His power went out in surges like unbelievable. And I was not about to pull back. I was going to stay focused and do what God had said He was going to do in reaching the people. Julian, tell him what happened when God began to come in. I don't know that they can hear it everywhere, but I'll try to repeat it so if this mic is picking it up. Go ahead and tell him what happened next.
This lady came up to me because I was off to the side, and she said that she had a feeling that she had to come and ask something. Okay, so I told her okay. He said that she started telling me the story. He said that her daughter had cancer, and that she was desperate. She just wanted, wanted if you could pray for her. I told her, yeah, but we're in the middle of this. Then when we're done, that I will let you know that about what she said. He said, yeah, please do. And so I got her contact number. So, well, give me your contact number, because she said she had to leave. She was going to be there a couple of minutes, but she was drawn to that where we were at, and she gave me her contact information, and then she left. And then after that, that's when everything stopped, everything ended. That's when I handed you the paper. I told you what happened. And then you wanted to call her. And so you called her.
I was standing out there when God was moving. And as the Lord began to move, she felt an urgency to come forward and ask Julian if I would pray for her daughter who had cancer, and she wasn't expected to live any length of time at all. I didn't know the details at that moment, so immediately we called her, and her daughter said to his mother, I feel like if this woman prays for me, I will be okay. If this woman prays for me, I will be okay. She didn't say she would be healed, but she knew that death was imminent. She wasn't going to live, and she knew that she didn't know if she knew God enough to know if she was going to make it to where He was. And so I prayed for her over the telephone. And the next thing I know is I went back toward the back of the building. The mother come bringing her daughter in the wheelchair into the building. And they told me the little girl is here. The little girl said she just had to come where I was at. When she came, I sat down on a chair beside her, and I began to talk with her. And she told me, I have cancer. They don't expect me to live. very many more days. And I just want to know if I'm going to make it to heaven or not. I just want to know, is everything all right with me and God? I just want to know. She didn't ask God to heal her. She just wanted to know, when she left this earth, would she be in the presence of the Almighty? And I looked at her and I said, honey, you have nothing to be fearful of. You will be with the Lord. I can promise you that. She had a sense of peacefulness that come over her. And then she asked me a few questions. She said, do you know what heaven is like? And I said, well, I have died twice. And I can tell you what death is like. I've been there. I've been there. I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. You feel no pain, only love. And you could see the expression on her face as it changed of hope. And as we conversed a little bit more, she asked me a question that I had never been asked before. She said, could you ask God if he would hug me? Could you ask him, please? I had never, ever been asked that. So I bowed my head and I began to pray. And I said to him, what shall I tell him? What should I tell her? I don't know how to handle this one. And he said, tell her that when you hug her, that is me hugging her through you. I was just in awe. I relayed the message to the little girl. And boy, was she ready for a hug. What happened in that next few seconds was the most unbelievable experience any man or woman has ever experienced. The creator of the universe came down, and through me, I hugged the little girl, and the power of God went up and down like a beam into the heavens and down. It did not stop. It shook the room. Everyone could feel the intensity as this was happening. God was touching the little girl's life. And he was so showing her he loves her. He loves her. He loves us. And in that position for a little bit longer, she was just unbelievable. Like I have just walked in, and she had just walked into the glory of God. Julian, tell what happened on the outside, since I was focused more on the little girl than I was on what was going on around us. What was happening where you were standing?
I mean, well, the atmosphere was already. I mean, you could feel that there was something there. There was something about to happen, but it was. But whenever you hugged her, it's like a. The only way to describe it to me is for people to understand it would be like a force field. They came down and it stayed. I mean, it was like it shook everybody. I mean, it shook me and everybody. That we could feel something that we had never felt before. I mean, it was that powerful. Like something that just came in and it just stayed, and it just like you were held back by it, but you could feel it. You could feel the presence of God there so strong that everybody felt it. Everybody was shocked that when all that was happening.
I myself was in a state of awe. I have been in the presence of the Lord countless times, and I've seen the beauty of his love. And that day, that little girl left with hope and she asked me this question as things started to wind down. She said, will I ever be able to walk again? Will my hair come back? I said, yes, honey, you will, and yes, your hair will come back. When she left that day, she asked if she could have a picture of me that was on one of the papers that we had there. I think it was a business card or whatever, flyer. Because she said she wanted to always look at me and know that I prayed for her and she felt God. She wasn't fearful about the future now. So as each day went on, we were waiting for the call that said that she had left this earth. But I knew that she was at peace of whatever the outcome was. Time went on. One of my granddaughters kept in touch with her. Guess what? Cancer was gone. A little more time passed, and again, a positive result. Several months passed, and she was giving a positive report. She didn't live in the same town that we were in. I don't know what has happened at this point, but I do know a God that touched her and let her know that He is real. You see, our problem is we just don't know Him. We don't understand Him. We don't have a concept of Him. We have been dictated day after day, year after year, century after century, how we're supposed to observe Him. But we don't know Him, because if we knew Him, oh, how easy it is to love Him. That's one of many, many miracles that we have seen, that we have experienced, and we've seen more since then. But that's the one I felt very impressed to tell you about. The presence of the Lord countless times. And I've seen the beauty of His love. And that day, that little girl left with hope that, and she asked me this question as things started to wind down. She said, will I ever be able to walk again? Will my hair come back? I said, yes, honey, you will, and yes, your hair will come back. When she left that day, she asked if she could have a picture of me that was on one of the papers that we had there. I think it was a business card or whatever, flyer. Because she said she wanted to always look at me and know that I prayed for her and she felt God. She wasn't fearful about the future now. So as each day went on, we were waiting for the call that said that she had left this earth. But I knew that she was at peace of whatever the outcome was. Time went on. One of my granddaughters kept in touch with her. Guess what? Cancer was gone. A little more time passed, and again, a positive result. Several months passed, and she was giving a positive report. She didn't live in the same town that we were in. I don't know what has happened at this point, but I do know a God that touched her and let her know that He is real. You see, our problem is we just don't know Him. We don't understand Him. We don't have a concept of Him. We have been dictated day after day, year after year, century after century, how we're supposed to observe Him. But we don't know Him, because if we knew Him, oh, how easy it is to love Him. That's one of many, many miracles that we have seen, that we have experienced, and we've seen more since then. But that's the one I felt very impressed to tell you about.
Began, like I said, it was a desperation of a mother for her child, a desperation that she needed a touch from God. You people that are watching, when are you going to have that desperation? That desperation that you need to touch God, you need to know who God is. When are you going to get that in your heart, that desperation, as that mother did for her child? When are we going to get that? We need to get it as soon as possible, because times are changing. Times are about to change. We need to get that desperate for God. We need to know who He is. We need to search Him out.
Absolutely. You're spot on that. If we are desperate with God, that we push away all of our indoctrination, all the stories, all the lies, and we go one-on-one with God. In our personality, in our comprehension, God will honor that. It's when we try to fit ourselves into a mold that is not realistic. So, yes, the mother was desperate because she was going to lose her little girl. But you see, God saw the heart of both the little girl and the mother, and the whole thing changed. We have got to step back and ask ourselves this question: who is God? Tela Ishaka. And how are we supposed to acknowledge him, serve him? Is it in a book or is it in an experience? Where is he? How come all the books I read and all the prayers I say doesn't make a change in my life? Why is it that I can't seem to connect, no matter how many days and years and hours, months that I spend? I can't seem to connect with the God of the universe, Adonai. You know, Julian, some time ago, it had been revealed to me about the truth of the New Testament in the Christian Bible. And it was very hard for me to come forward because I wanted to double, triple, quadruple check myself that I had the information and it was correct. I have lost people in my life who didn't agree with me. But the only thing I'm interested in is that he finds approval in my actions. So I don't really focus on who gets angry and who does not. God sent me here for one purpose, and that's to teach you how to serve him and connect to what is real. So I disregarded the New Testament, ceased to have anything. Jesus was not in my vocabulary. I didn't want anything to do with the story of Jesus when I found out that it was built upon mythology. It was easy to say, God is not a myth. God is real. He is absolutely real. And so I just couldn't hear even songs about Jesus or coming salvation through Jesus' name. I couldn't do it. It was the lies that were always present before me because I believed that lie for 50 years. I invested my time, my energy, and extreme study in trying to understand why that book never made sense. Why was it so hard to comprehend? Why was it not in a language that I could grasp? It would seem to me that if it was the inspired word of God, it would even apply to 2025 and not be hidden mystery meanings that have no comprehension. I didn't understand, but I shut the door on that New Testament. Now, I have made reference to it at times to say, this is what you believe, but this is not the truth. Now, within the last couple of days, God revealed to me more, and he brought to me this fact. You shut the door on the myths that were in the New Testament. Should you not shut the door on the myths that are in the Old Testament? You see, I was hanging on to a thread of possibility. Maybe there was something in the Old Testament that had a thread of truth. But then as the days went on, boom, 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 God began to reveal the lie after the lie after the lie after the lie. And today I make the declaration, I don't believe that book. Daro shave tolo korevachane. I don't believe that book. And I'm going to take you step by step through the lies in the first part of Genesis to reveal to you why those lies were put in there. Before I do, I want to tell you of a dream that I had this morning. As I said, I was up most of the night working on different parts of this, working with the team about slides and so forth to show. And this is the dream that I had. I had been brought into a hospital, and I have prayed for people, and they have come back to life after being marked dead by medical profession. We have seen the dead come back to life. Nothing that I ever prayed for. I just focused on God and believed him for whatever his perfect will would be. I am not a miracle worker. I am a servant of Adonai. I am not anything great except his messenger, his prophetess. That's who I am. And that's a responsibility I take very seriously. So in this dream, I walked into the place where this young woman was in a coma. I didn't know the circumstance. I couldn't understand what was going on. I was just brought there. And when I stood there for a few minutes and I said a very simple prayer, nothing magnificent, just trying to focus on what was going on. And the next thing that happened was immediately I saw this young woman in the condition that she was in. And I stepped into that zone and I began to pray, talking to the God that I serve. I wasn't asking for a miracle. I was asking for his divine, perfect will. After a few minutes of prayer, the woman began to open her eyes. It was gradual, but then eventually she opened them all the way. And when she opened them all the way, I was awoke abruptly. And all of a sudden, I knew what that meant. We've walked around in a coma, believing lies long enough. Today, he drops those lies for you to see who he really is and what he is about. God is a God that cares about humanity. He cares very deeply about where we are individually. So as I'm speaking you today, I'm going to expose those lies that we can come out of the coma that we as a world have walked in for centuries. Because now we need to know who God really is and what does he expect of us. Therefore, today I make the announcement, I don't go by that book. I know what's in that book. But when I know who wrote it and what they did and how they tried to manipulate and control the people so it would separate them from God, I will not acknowledge truth in that book anymore.
Thank you for watching Cheryl Remington. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified of any and all future videos.